Next question is, and I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say on this because this is a very interesting question. Is there a law that you would support to reduce gun violence? I get that question asked fairly often. The notes, this was a question from a well-meaning but left-of-center friend. I talked about deconstructing the term gun violence and possible solutions for the root causes, enforcing current laws, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm curious how the gun owners radio team would handle this question. There are a lot of laws that I support. Like, for example, issuing CCWs. That absolutely will reduce gun violence. If somebody has the ability to defend themselves, give them the avenue in order to, be able to, A, purchase, B, train with, and C, carry the most effective self-defense tool ever invented, which is a firearm. In fact, I was asked by the state in one of our lawsuits, they were questioning me as far as, well, hey, what gun laws do you support or whatever? And I say, hey, issuing CCWs, shall issue CCWs. As was described in the Bruin case, that's exactly a gun law that I absolutely support, making it possible for people to carry, people to defend themselves. Villainizing people who want to defend themselves and want to protect their families, preventing them from having a self-defense tool, that's not a good law. That's not making anybody safer. The only thing it's protecting is criminals. In fact, it's not just preventing people from defending themselves, but it's also changing the culture and changing the conversation. So making laws that, it's easier for people to obtain self-defense tools. It's easier for people to protect their home as their castle, figuratively speaking. Making it easier, gun laws that make it easier for people to carry outside of the home, making sure that people can defend themselves wherever they go. I strongly, firmly believe that those are gun laws that improve society, that protect gun owners, that protect your Second Amendment rights. The Second Amendment is a fantastic gun law, and I support it, and it prevents gun violence. It prevents violence in general. And I know people don't like the term gun violence. I don't either, but I'm just speaking in terms that the other side understands. So those types of things, fantastic. The other thing we talk about a lot is we stand for the rights of sane, trained, law-abiding gun owners.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
So if you're not sane, trained, law-abiding, I'm not looking to protect your Second Amendment rights. And FPC, Firearms Policy Coalition, keeps using the term peaceable. And I've kind of adopted that. That might turn into the fourth word, sane, trained, law-abiding, peaceable people. So any law that is, that supports sane, trained, law-abiding gun owners, as far as their self-defense and their ability to own and train and carry, I'm all for it. I think that helps. I think that makes the world a better place. So what do you guys think?
As the question was stated, is there a law?
Yep.
In my opinion, no, I agree with everything that you stated. The issuance of CCWs absolutely, I think, helps to support the reduction of gun violence. All the things you stated, absolutely true. However, in my opinion, is there a true law that we could do that would really make a huger impact than what you've already stated? No, I think, in my opinion, it comes down to mindset, which you've already touched on, which Gabe is a huge advocate for, right? I think we need to fix the mindset, expose and allow the exposure of firearms in children at an early age where they learn the respect, they learn the safety. If we imagine, with all these laws, prohibiting or trying to block or prevent or limit the exposure of firearms and children to firearms,
right,
it makes it like the forbidden wing in a Disney movie. Right. It makes it like this thing that they strive at some point where they might strive to try to find it, but they don't have the tools or the safe practices to be able to do it well, right? My kids in particular, my kids were exposed young. I started teaching my kids when they were very young, 4, 5, 6. I actually let them handle and shoot a little bit younger than what the OSHA recommendations are. Mine started around 6 or 7. for the most part. I have 4 kids. They were exposed young. They learned respect for it. I think really, in my opinion, I think that right there is going to be where we can get the greatest reduction in gun violence, is teaching the respect.
What about
and the mindset.
Sure. What about a law that says, hey, schools have to teach proficiency or something like that, or municipalities have to make material available for gun proficiencies so that when kids aren't afraid or kids aren't it isn't a mystery for kids or something like that. I think
I like that in theory, but if you think about it, who's going to teach it? Who are they?
Yeah, they're going to get the
right.
anti-gun to teach it. That is a problem.
I love the concept.
Yeah.
Like I will tell you, I grew up here in San Diego. Went to high school here in San Diego. I actually, and all through high school, we did rifle marksmanship in the classroom. We had the old school classrooms with like the curtain. They turned one classroom into 2 by closing that curtain. Well, we opened that curtain and we had a range there in the classroom. And I think that was I don't know what year they stopped doing that, but I thought that was the most amazing, awesome thing ever. For me, that was my first exposure to firearms.
Well, what they're really asking, what anti-gun law out there that exists or has been proposed would you agree with? That's really probably what they're asking.
Getting at? I don't think there is one.
Well, I think it depends on what you think is going to reduce gun violence. I think this person thinks reduction in gun violence is going to require anti-Second Amendment legislation,
Right.
but I don't agree with that, and I have plenty of opinions on things that I think would help reduce gun violence.
Nail it. What's one? Give us one. Give us a strong one.
Oh, man, putting me on the spot.
How about
Let's
reduction?
talk about...
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll give you a moment to think. How about a reduction in the legislation and the laws on self-defense? Like make us not the criminal in self-defense. I mean, that's not a pro-law, but
I'll give you an example.
Open that up.
I think we've got pretty decent self-defense laws as is. I think some of like the transportation stuff and some of there's some things that are like gray areas even for concealed carriers that I think are jamming people up in the legal system for absolutely no reason. But I like the concept of it's your responsibility as a gun owner to make sure that your firearm is safely stored in a way that people can't steal it. So in California, there's laws that say that your gun safe in your vehicle has to be permanently affixed to the vehicle or your gun has to be stored in the trunk. I think that's actually a good law because people throw guns in glove boxes and center consoles underneath seats, no locks, no nothing. And I think it should be our responsibility if we're going to leave our vehicle, not be near it, not be, right there with it. If we're going to leave our vehicle with a gun inside, it's our responsibility as law-abiding gun owners to not let that get into the hands of criminals as much as is reasonable. Obviously, if a criminal is going to bring tools and saw off my driver's seat to get the safe that's underneath it, like that's on them. But I do think some laws related to theft prevention are fine. I think they actually do help reduce gun violence because we know how many people get their firearms from law-abiding citizens.
But now, do you think that people, thinking this through, do you think that people lock their firearms up properly as stated because of the law or because their mindset is right and they know that it's stupid not to? I mean, do you think there's anybody that locks it only because of the law? Like if it wasn't legislated, I think those people still would. And the people that don't now and ignore the law still wouldn't. I don't know that the law has made a huge impact. I think
maybe that's given people a little bit too much credit because there's a lot of gun owners who don't know anything about the law or guns at all. They go, they buy their first gun, and the only information they're going to get, period, is from whatever that FFL says to them when they make the purchase because they're not going to go home and Google it. They're not going to look into the laws. A lot of people just walk in, do the paperwork, chat with the guy for a few minutes, come back 10 days later, and whatever knowledge they have when they leave that store is the knowledge they're going to have related to guns. So I do think in some ways, requiring the cable lock at purchase or requiring the affidavit of the safe, all of that is sort of encouraging those conversations, is forcing those people to understand safe storage to an extent. Now, whether or not they would be doing it anyway without the law, I think is super case by case. But we know lots of people. I mean, personally, I think we all know people who have gotten guns stolen out of vehicles. Like I know a few people who have gotten guns stolen out of cars. So, and to me, those are people that are like normal, good, smart, safe people, but just made a silly choice or didn't have the correct stuff with them. And they were unexpectedly like, oh, great, I've got to leave my gun in the car kind of things. But I think even smart people sometimes make bad choices when it comes to safe storage. So I don't know. I think the law does help.
I tend to I don't like laws that tell you how to do something, but give consequences for being irresponsible. So what does that mean? I don't like laws that say, hey, you have to store and I guess I'm not really weighing in on gun storage specifically, but as far as that fundamentally, I would prefer a law that said rather than you have to store it this particular way. Like here is the government approved box, and you have to store it in a government approved way. Rather than that, I would say that I would prefer a law that said, hey, if you are irresponsible and your gun falls into the wrong hands because you weren't making an effort to make sure it didn't fall into those hands, then there's some kind of consequence to those actions.
The problem with that is then people aren't going to self-report stolen guns. So if I know there's a law that says if I wasn't smart when I stored my gun and then it got stolen, I'm not going to call the sheriff and say, hey, my gun got stolen, here's the serial number, right? So
but that is the same.
That's the same as now, though.
But even if they had so you're
right
saying
now the law says you can't get in trouble. If your firearm is stolen and you report it stolen, you can't get in trouble for how it was stolen. That's what the law says right now.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I guess so. If they did prescribe a way, they said, "Hey, this is the way in which." Well, I guess they do. So, all right, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Within the home, if you have it properly stored.
Well, okay. So I think in general, what we're saying is that
let's bring it back
wrap
around.
it up here.
Yeah.
I think what we're saying is that the anti-gun laws that limit sane, trained, law-abiding, and peaceable people from obtaining a firearm, from getting training, from carrying it outside for self-defense. We don't believe that those gun laws are going to be helpful. They certainly aren't helpful to people that they're preventing from exercising their right to self-defense. We do think that there are laws that would provide resources and avenues for people to provide self-defense for themselves and defense for other people, and we're big supporters of those. But I think that it's going to require a big cultural change in order for people to see it that way. So,
yeah, I think one thing that we didn't really touch on is minimum sentencing. We know for sure that gun violence would be reduced if criminals were in jail instead of out and about on our streets hurting people.
Better. That's preferred.
Right? So there's laws on the books that are minimum sentences for all sorts of things, including, felon in possession of a firearm, stuff like that. But the minimums are pretty light, pretty soft. I mean, we know that if you're a felon and you have a gun and you use it in a violent crime, you're probably likely to do it again. Like statistically speaking, you're very likely to commit another violent crime with a firearm in the future. So maybe the laws I would support more than things that are actually impacting the law-abiding folks is the laws that are, impacting the folks who are already breaking it.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for watching Gun Owners Radio. I hope you loved that clip. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and follow us on social media, and check out our website at gunownersradio.com.